What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you live from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today we are going to discuss the quarterback woes of the Cleveland Browns. Now, obviously, if you're a fan of the NFL, if you're a fan of football in general, you're well aware of the Cleveland Browns and their problems with finding a franchise quarterback. Now, this video is only going to be discussing the modern day expansion team of the Cleveland Browns that was founded in 1999. We are not going to look at the older Cleveland Browns that, of course, relocated to Baltimore back in 1996. That is, well, they actually had some good quarterbacks. Yeah, this is the modern day Cleveland Browns once more, founded in 1999. Now, this video is going to be the first of our Cleveland week. So, Cleveland week, if you're not aware, is going to be 4 videos all discussing the Cleveland Browns. Might as well throw them all together. I thought about doing this video a while back, or this topic a while back, and I'm like, you know what? Might as well just do 4 videos all in one week, call it Cleveland week. And of course, earlier today, if you're not aware, they recently announced that Cleveland will host the 2021 NFL Draft. So it just kind of worked out perfectly, just perfect timing. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump right in and start discussing the Cleveland Browns quarterback woes. So, of course, this team was founded in 1999. The modern day Browns were founded in 1999. So, they were awarded the first overall pick in the 1999 NFL Draft. With that pick, they would select quarterback Tim Couch. Now, they would choose him over the likes of Donovan McNabb, Dante Culpepper. And then they also chose him over a trio of players in Ricky Williams, who they probably could have traded for, they could have traded down and gotten a ton of picks for him. Edgerrin James, who's a Hall of Famer, both of whom are running backs, Williams and James. And then Champ Bailey, who's also a Hall of Famer cornerback. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, it makes sense to choose a quarterback, though. So they would also acquire Ty Detmer in a trade. Detmer was essentially going to be the mentor to Couch. He was a respected veteran at this point. He'd been around the league for 7-8 years. So what ends up happening is Detmer's the starter, and he has one uninspiring game. So Couch ends up becoming the starter with Detmer returned to the backup role. Now, Couch has a decent rookie season as he would throw for 2,447 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. That might not sound amazing, but remember, this is an expansion team, so there's not going to be a lot of talent. This showed because Couch was actually sacked a league high 56 times in that season. Clearly, Cleveland had a bad O-line, so Couch was constantly on the run, and this would become a theme for him in his career. Now, Cleveland had a rough year that year, going 2-14. So then we get to 2000. And in 2000, the Browns would draft Spergon Wynn in the 6th round. Now, he would obviously be a backup. He'd be the 3rd-string quarterback. Now, Couch would begin the season as the starter, but unfortunately for Cleveland, Ty Detmer would miss the entire season due to an Achilles injury that he suffered. So obviously they were kind of panicking there for a backup quarterback. And then it really starts to show when Tim Couch would break his thumb, and this would cause him to miss the last 9 games of the season. Now, he didn't have a great second year. He would throw for 1,483 yards, 7 touchdowns, but he threw for 9 interceptions. So they did sign free agent quarterback Doug Pederson to be the backup after Detmer went down, and Doug Pederson did not play well. Now, he would play every game, the last 9 games, except for one, which he missed due to a rib injury. And of course, Spergon Wynn took over that one game for the Browns. And then Wynn would suffer a season-ending injury himself, which meant the Browns had 3 quarterbacks on the season-ending IR. Doug Pederson took back over the starting role and just didn't do well. So Pederson himself, he would throw for 1,047 yards, a pair of touchdowns, and a scary 8 interceptions in 8 starts. So he threw an interception each start, but he only threw a quarter of a touchdown each start. Obviously, not good. Wynn didn't do much better in his single start. He would throw for 167 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. The Browns went 3-13 in 2000. So now we get to 2001. And the Browns said, okay, we need to change our quarterback room. So they kept Tim Couch. But Doug Pederson was released. Spergon Wynn was traded away. And Ty Detmer was allowed to walk via free agency. They're just like, you know what? We got to get new people. And so they would sign Holcomb. And Kelly Holcomb's decent. And fortunately for Cleveland, in the year 2001, they didn't need a backup quarterback, as Couch would start all 16 games for the team. He would throw for 3,040 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 21 interceptions, as the team had a respectable 7-9 record. Keeping in mind that this is with Tim Couch constantly on the run, as it's hard to find good offensive linemen, and not a lot of great weapons to help him out either. So, yeah, Cleveland's still having some trouble here. Now we get to 2002. And 2002 actually saw Tim Couch have a career year. He would start 14 games, and that might not sound great, but he did throw for 2,842 yards, which of course is less than 2001, but keep in mind that's more per game, 18 touchdowns, and 18 interceptions. Now, he would help to lead the team to the playoffs, but unfortunately for him and the Cleveland Browns, he would suffer a broken leg in week 17, which obviously caused him to miss the playoff game. So we had Kelly Holcomb take over, and he would start 2 games in the regular season, throwing for 790 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. The Browns would go 9-7, which was good for a wild card spot. So Holcomb actually would play well in the playoff game, tossing for 429 yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. Now the team would lose in the playoffs, but seeing Holcomb play so well put a quarterback controversy in place for Cleveland. So now we get to 2003, and Kelly Holcomb would beat out Tim Couch in the quarterback battle. However, the team just couldn't recapture their 2002 magic, and Holcomb would start 8 games, and Couch would start 8 games. Kind of, we'll see who can do better. And unfortunately for Cleveland, neither one really stood out. So Couch would throw for 1,319 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, while Holcomb would throw for 1,797 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. It's clear that Couch is more of a, quick pass guy, less risky, while Holcomb's more of a, okay, I'm going to take a shot down the field. We'll see what happens. Now, that's not to undersell Tim Couch. Tim Couch is known, he did have a couple great Hail Mary passes in his career, so I don't mean to discredit Tim Couch in that regard. But Holcomb was just better at it. So Tim Couch would go 3-5 in his 8 games as a starter, while Holcomb would go 2-6. Now, it was clear that change was coming. So prior to 2004, they would release Tim Couch. This really surprised some people, but Tim Couch just couldn't prove it. He couldn't be the number one guy that Cleveland thought they were getting. So they're just kind of like, all right, you know what? Goodbye. Now, real quick on Tim Couch. A lot of people say he's the biggest bust, one of the biggest busts in NFL history. Of course, Jamarcus Russell, I would say, is the biggest bust in modern day NFL drafts history. But you got to give Tim Couch some credit. He had no offensive line for the majority of his career. He was sacked so many times, he couldn't stay healthy. And it's really kind of sad that nobody wanted to give him a chance after Cleveland cut him. But you got to feel bad for Tim Couch. He did what he could on a bad expansion team for 5 years. So I'll give credit where credit is due. Tim Couch is not the biggest bust in NFL history. Anyway, so now we're in 2004. And with Tim Couch gone, Cleveland would bring in veteran quarterback Jeff Garcia, while also spending a 4th-round pick on Luke McCown. So Jeff Garcia had made 3 Pro Bowls 3 years prior, and he looked pretty good. He had one bad year, and then San Francisco said, all right, you're gone. So he went to Cleveland. Cleveland was like, okay, we want to see if we can recapture the magic. Garcia won the starting job, but he really just didn't look good in Cleveland. After 10 games, Holcomb retook the starting job. He would only last a pair of games as the Browns decided to test out and see what they had in Luke McCown for the last 4. Garcia would throw for 1,731 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, but only had a 3-7 record as the starter. Holcomb would throw for 737 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Now he went 1-1, but he did also play in relief in 2 more games. That's why his numbers are a little higher than you'd expect. And then McCown would throw for 608 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He went 0-4 as a starter. So they just wanted to see what they had in McCown. The Browns would clear house in 2005. They just said, all right, we're done. They would cut Jeff Garcia. They let Kelly Holcomb walk via free agency, and they traded away Luke McCown. Now, for those of you keeping track, that's 7 different quarterbacks starting at least one game through 6 seasons for the Browns at this point. So the team, they said we need a new quarterback. So they would draft Charlie Frye in the 3rd round, and they would trade for Trent Dilfer to be a mentor for him. They would also claim rookie Derek Anderson off of waivers in early September. So Trent Dilfer became the starter, and he would eventually hand over the role to Charlie Frye. Dilfer had a feud with the Browns coaching staff, which definitely may have affected his performance. Now, he would start 11 games, and he threw for 2,321 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, going 4-7 as a starter before Frye would take over. Frye would throw for 1,002 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He was 2-3 as a starter. So the Browns would go 6-10 that year. So now we go to 2006, and Trent Dilfer was traded away in a package that included a quarterback named Ken Dorsey. He becomes important in a little bit. Charlie Frye began the season as the starter. He did okay. He would start the first 12 games of the season before getting hurt. Now, he did return in week 17, though. He would throw for 2,454 yards, 10 touchdowns, but an uninspiring 17 interceptions, going 4-9 as a starter. Derek Anderson would throw for 793 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He went 0-3 as a starter. It's clear that Cleveland is having trouble getting good quarterbacks. So now we go to 2007. And Cleveland's like, all right, we're done. We need another first-round quarterback. So they would move up to trade for Brady Quinn. And they would pick him in the first round in 2007. So the 3 quarterbacks, Anderson, Frye, and Quinn, would enter a quarterback competition. Frye would come out on top, Anderson would be the backup, and Quinn would be the 3rd stringer, basically because he was a rookie. After a single start, the management was just done with Charlie Frye, so they traded him away. He would throw for 34 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception, going 0-1 in that game. Now, he may have won the starting job, but he lost it even quicker. Anderson would take over the starting role, and he had a great season for Cleveland. He led the team to a 10-5 record in his starts. Now, he also threw for 3,787 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 19 interceptions. Now, he was named an alternate to the Pro Bowl, but then after Tom Brady decided to not play due to an injury, Anderson would get named to the Pro Bowl, which gave Cleveland their first Pro Bowl quarterback in their history. Up to this point, the modern-day Cleveland Browns history. Unfortunately for the Browns, they would miss out on the playoffs, despite having a 10-6 record. So now we get to 2008. And there was some hope for the Browns in 2008. Obviously, they had a 10-6 record, and Derek Anderson was coming off a Pro Bowl appearance. Now, Anderson won the starting job as expected, but he would be benched in early November for Brady Quinn. Quinn did okay, but he would suffer a season-ending injury at the end of November, which led to Anderson retaking the starting role. But he would only appear in one more game before he also suffered an injury that ended his season. Ken Dorsey stepped into the starting role, and he struggled. Now, he ends up getting hurt as well, leading to the Browns having to acquire Bruce Gradkowski for one game, week 17. So, yeah, it didn't go well. So, Derek Anderson would throw for 1,615 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions in his 9 starts, going 3-6. Brady Quinn would throw for 518 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, going 1-2. Gradkowski would throw for 26 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Granted, he was a practice squad guy who was called up and just basically was thrown into a bad position, while Ken Dorsey himself would throw for 370 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a very concerning 7 interceptions. Once more, Cleveland was like, all right, this is ridiculous. So before the season even began, both Dorsey and Gradkowski were released. No one was surprised. So this led to Brady Quinn and Derek Anderson sharing the starting role, with Quinn originally winning the role, but losing it after 3 games. Now, they kind of rotated the starting role big time. Quinn would throw for 1,339 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, going 2-7 as a starter in 2009, while Derek Anderson threw for 888 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an uninspiring 10 interceptions. However, he did go 3-4 in his 7 starts. So now we get to 2010, and Derek Anderson left the Browns via free agency. Now you think, oh, that's cool. Brady Quinn won the starting role. Nope. He was traded away. So Once again, the Browns have to make a pick in the draft. In the third round, they would select Colt McCoy. And they would also sign former Panthers quarterback Jake Delhomme, and they would trade for Seneca Wallace. Another year, another new quarterback room for the Browns. So Delhomme was actually named the starter with Wallace as the backup. Now, unfortunately, Delhomme actually would get hurt in the preseason. He played through it, and then in week one, he re-aggravated the injury, which obviously caused him to get hurt. And Seneca Wallace took over. Wallace would suffer an injury himself in week 5, high ankle sprain, which led to Delhomme taking the job back. He would re-aggravate his injury once more after some poor play, which gave the starting job to rookie Colt McCoy. McCoy would play for a while, but he would once more suffer an injury, or another Browns quarterback suffered an injury, I should say, and this caused him to miss a game. So this was a very messy quarterback situation for the Browns. Delhomme went through for 872 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 7 picks, going 2-2 as a starter. Seneca Wallace would throw for 694 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, but he went 1-3 as a starter. Colt McCoy would throw for 1,576 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, going 2-6 as a starter. So yeah, not a good situation for the Cleveland Browns. So now we get to 2011, and they would just get rid of Jake Delhomme. They're like, all right, he's done. He's not what we wanted him to be. So Delhomme's gone. Colt McCoy would win the starting job, and he would play decently starting 13 games for the team. He would throw for 2,733 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, going 4-9 as a starter. Seneca Wallace would start 3 games, and he would throw for 567 yards, a pair of touchdowns, and a pair of interceptions. However, he went 0-3 as a starter. So, yeah, really, the Browns are having a lot of trouble keeping quarterbacks on the field. So, entering 2012, Seneca Wallace was released, and the Browns said, all right, Colt McCoy is not the answer. They would draft Brandon Weeden in the first round. Now, Brandon Weeden was a very suspect pick when they picked him. Brandon Weeden had spent a good chunk of time in the minors of baseball. He was a Yankees prospect, and then he went back to college to play some football. And the Browns said, "Oh, this guy might be 26 or something like that. He was older, but we'll spend a first round pick on him." Did it work out? We'll see. So Thad Lewis was claimed off of waivers in early September. So Whedon would become the immediate starter as the Browns wanted to see what they had, and they felt, you know what, he's mature. He's mature enough. He's not a rookie. He doesn't need to sit here and study the playbook every day. So he would start 15 games for that season. He would throw for 3,385 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions, going 5-10 as a starter. So Colt McCoy would appear in one game as an injury replacement, but he also got hurt. He didn't start any games. Thad Lewis would start in week 17, and he would play respectively. He would throw for 204 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. However, the Browns did lose that one game. So, yeah. Now we get to 2013. Colt McCoy was traded away, and Thad Lewis was cut. This meant that the starting job belonged to Brandon Weeden. The Browns, however, did sign a pair of veteran quarterbacks in Jason Campbell and Brian Hoyer to be the backups. So Weeden would get hurt in week 2, which led to Jason Campbell taking over the starting role. This would not last, however, as Brian Hoyer would actually jump into the starting role from the third string spot. And Weeden would return at some point from his injury, but he still struggled. He was benched for Campbell, and really, none of these 3 quarterbacks stood out. Weeden would start 5 games. He would throw for 1,731 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. That sounds decent, but he went 0-5, or the Browns went 0-5, I should say. Jason Campbell would throw for 2,015 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Now, he didn't do amazing, as the team would go 1-7 in his 8 starts. Brian Hoyer arguably looked the best of the 3. He was a good game manager. Of course, coming from the Belichick table, he knows what he's doing. He would throw for 615 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. More importantly, the Browns would go 3-0 in his 3 starts. So now we enter 2014. And after 2 disappointing seasons, Brandon Weeden was cut. They said, all right, goodbye. They also got rid of Jason Campbell. Now, this was before the draft. This was a month before the draft happened. The draft comes in, and the Browns make a big move, trading up to select the man who's the thumbnail of this video, Johnny Football Manziel. Brian Hoyer was named the starter to begin the season, but it was expected that Manziel would eventually take out the starting role. Hoyer lasted 13 games as a starter before being replaced due to ineffectiveness. He would throw for 3,326 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, going 7-6 as a starter. Now, Manziel took over, and he was an instant fan favorite for about 5 minutes. His work ethic was really brought into question by many people, including anonymous players, anonymous coaching staff members, and the media in general. So he would only throw for 175 yards, didn't get any touchdowns, and threw 2 picks before an injury shut down his season early. Manziel would go 0-2 as a starter. Now, this saw Connor Shaw get promoted from the practice squad for a game. He would throw for 177 yards, he didn't throw for a touchdown, and he threw for 1 interception, going 0-1 as a starter. So, yeah, Shaw threw for a couple more yards than Manziel did. Not exactly inspiring for Johnny Manziel. And then we get to 2015, and Brian Hoyer walked as a free agent. Shaw would get hurt in the preseason, putting him on the IR. Veteran Josh McCown was signed, and he was named the starter over Johnny Manziel. However, he would get hurt in the Browns' Week 1 matchup, leading to Johnny Manziel taking over. Now, despite one solid start for Johnny, McCown retook the starting gig when he came back from injury. He would be benched after struggling, giving Manziel the job back as the fans had wanted. However, he was seen partying in, I believe it was Las Vegas, during a bye week. And the Browns knew he had character concerns, so they kind of said, listen, you can't party. We don't want you going out. We want you to do the responsible thing. You have to stay, you have to stay in Cleveland. You have to study. You can't go out. But he did it anyway. So this upset them, and they would bench him for Josh McCown. And basically, McCown would get hurt shortly after. So you think Manziel would come back. No, they said, all right, Manziel, we're done with you, disciplinary reasons. You're benched still. They would call on Austin Davis to take over the starting job for a single game. Unfortunately, Davis didn't do well, so Manziel was allowed to become the starter once more. He would suffer a concussion in Week 16, which ended his season and earned Davis one last start. So Josh McCown would throw for 2,109 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, going 1-7. He was a good game manager. He would do a lot of check down passes. Johnny Manziel would throw for 1,500 yards even, 7 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, going 2-4 as a starter. He did provide a little bit of a spark, but the spark would also go negatively as defenders love to hit him. And Davis would throw for 574 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions, going 0-2 as a starter. So now we get to 2016. And for disciplinary reasons, Johnny Manziel was released. They said, we're done. He was caught out partying once more when he should have been, rehabbing. He should have been home. He shouldn't have been going out and partying. He had a concussion. He missed a team meeting he was supposed to go to. And this was Week 17. Keep in mind, he's dealing with a concussion. He's inactive because he has a concussion. He's out partying. Team was not happy. They said, all right, we're done. Austin Davis and Connor Shaw were both also released. Neither one was expected to be a big part of this team anyway. So, yeah. The team would sign Robert Griffin III. And then they would also draft Cody Kessler in round 3 of the draft. RG3 was the starter, and he got hurt in Week 1. He did return for the final 4 games of the season. He would throw for 886 yards, a pair of touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, going 1-4 as a starter. Josh McCown would take over the role, but he got hurt shortly after. Cody Kessler would step in with the 2 veterans hurt, starting 3 games before Josh McCown would return. No one really impressed the coaching staff, though. McCown would throw for 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, going 0-3 in his starts. Cody Kessler would throw for 1,380 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Problem was, they went 0-8 in his starts. So now we get to 2017. And the Browns were like, all right, we're done. We're done with these guys. RG3 was cut. Josh McCown was cut. They did draft Deshone Kizer in round 2 of the draft while also trading for Brock Osweiler. Now, Osweiler kind of came in. He had this massive contract that the Houston Texans had given him, and it was kind of a salary dump for Houston to get rid of him. He looked so bad in his 1 year in Houston that they said, all right, we're willing to give up a draft pick just to dump this guy's salary on Cleveland. And what would happen is Deshone Kizer would win the starting job over Brock Osweiler, which saw Osweiler get cut. They took the dead hit. They took the dead cap just to get rid of him. That's how bad he was. So Deshone Kizer would start all games but week 6, and he would record 2,894 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, but he threw a league-high 22 interceptions. So he went 0-15 as a starter. Kevin Hogan would start 1 game for the team, appearing in 4, throwing for 517 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, going 0-1 as a starter. That was the year the Browns went 0-16. So Kessler would appear in 1 game as an injury replacement. So now we get to 2018. And they would trade away the 3 quarterbacks that they had in 2017. Deshone Kizer was traded to the Packers. And then Hogan and Kessler were both just traded away in basically irrelevant deals. So Cleveland decided with the number 1 overall pick that they were going to go with Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield. They also traded for Tyrod Taylor. Taylor was the starter early on, but he would suffer an injury in week 3, which gave Baker Mayfield the starting job. Baker took that job and he never looked back. He was considered by many to be the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he would lose out to Saquon Barkley. For the first time in a while, arguably since 2007 when Derek Anderson was a Pro Bowler, Cleveland had hope at their quarterback position. Mayfield threw for 3,725 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. The team would go 6-7 in his starts. Tyrod Taylor would throw for 473 yards, a pair of touchdowns, and a pair of interceptions, as the Browns would go 1-1-1 in his 3 starts. Keeping in mind they tied week 1 against Pittsburgh. It looks like the Browns have finally found their guy with Baker Mayfield. We get to 2019, and Mayfield would start all 16 games for the team. He did slightly regress as he went through a minor sophomore slump. He threw for 3,827 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 21 picks as the team went 6-10. Then we get to 2020, and the 2020 team looked great. Baker would once more start all 16 games for the team, and he really cut down on his interception totals in 2020. He would throw for 3,563 yards, 26 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. The team would go 11-5. Now, they made the playoffs, and he had a solid showing in the playoffs. He would throw for 467 yards, 4 touchdowns, and only 1 interception, as the team went 1-1, losing a very close game to the Kansas City Chiefs. So it was a very interesting season for Cleveland. So to recap, the Browns have had a lot of problems with their quarterback situation before finally seemingly finding the answer with Baker Mayfield. Oh, really bad luck for the Browns. Their first ever pick was used on Tim Couch. Now, like I said, Couch dealt with a horrible offensive line and was consistently plagued with injuries. Kelly Holcomb provided brief hope, but he also fell flat. So the Browns would sign a former Pro Bowl quarterback in Jeff Garcia with the hope that he could recapture his magic. Like I said, he was a 3-time Pro Bowler before going to Cleveland, but that just failed miserably. Derek Anderson was added as a waiver claim, and he gave Cleveland an amazing season in 2007, making it to the Pro Bowl. He fizzled out shortly after that, which gave the role to Brady Quinn. Quinn ultimately flopped too, which stung a lot as he was a local kid. The team hoped that Colt McCoy could help solve the quarterback crisis, but he only lasted a few years. Brandon Weeden made it 2 more years. Then came Johnny Manziel. Do you really want me to repeat his story again? After a forgettable 2016, Deshone Kizer was drafted. And after leading the team to an 0-17 season, he was cut or traded. Finally, in 2018, Baker Mayfield was drafted first overall. And he does look like the answer. Hopefully, Baker Mayfield puts an end to that quarterback shirt that we've seen so many times with the Cleveland Browns. And yeah, through 22 seasons of their existence, the Browns have had 30 quarterbacks start at least 1 game for them. They've spent so much early draft capital on the position, and have not gotten much in return, hold Mayfield. The future does look bright for Baker Mayfield. So that is the Cleveland Browns quarterback woes situation. Obviously, Baker Mayfield does look like the answer. We'll have to see. He does have a steady offensive line. He does have a pair of great receivers in Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. But we'll have to see what happens in the future. Cleveland, you definitely have hope. It looks like your quarterback woes are coming to an end. I'd hope so. Obviously, a lot of people make fun of Cleveland Browns. I can't really make fun of them. You got to feel bad for them more than anything. That fan base is one of the most loyal fan bases in the NFL, in all of sports, really. That was a Cleveland Browns video of their quarterback situation. Again, this was video 1 of our Cleveland week. If you guys want to keep following it, we will have video 2 coming up on Wednesday, video 3 Thursday, and video 4, I believe, will be Saturday. So we have a pair of trade breakdowns coming up on Wednesday and Saturday. And then Thursday, we'll be live once more discussing the 2021 and the future of the Cleveland Browns. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a good rest of your day.